Hello, my name is Prakash Anthony Lohale. I am a Dominican priest living in Toronto. My main work or my main apostolate is working in the diocese as director for interreligious dialogue. And I have also a passion for justice and outreach work. So, Ripples of Kindness is a program which is an interfaith community meal. And the idea was to combat social isolation, homelessness in those in poverty and those in real dire need of friendship. So basically, I would say it's a program about creating relationships. So the name Ripples of Kindness was suggested by one of our volunteer friends when we began this program. He said that his grandfather said that we should be kind to everyone we meet. And it says it's like throwing a stone in the water or the lake, and which creates a ripple. And so kindness is something like that, that if you are kind to somebody, this kindness will pass on to others. So that was the idea of creating the name Ripples of Kindness. Secondly, because it is interfaith, which is not necessarily only Christian, the idea was we can involve people of other faith. We wanted to give it a very name that is not Christian or belonging to any denomination. And so we called it Ripples of Kindness. So we serve all kinds of people. We don't make any distinction between race or gender. But basically, our aim is to serve those who are homeless, those who are really needy, and those who are poor. And sometimes, because the area that we live, we have people who are, addicted to drugs, or there are people who are into prostitution. So all kinds of people come to our door, and we are happy to welcome them. So Ripples of Kindness is possible because we have a community of volunteers. In fact, I would say 3 communities. One is the community of volunteers, 50 plus volunteers. Then we have the community of the food providers. So they make the food in home and they bring it. And then we have the community whom we serve. We call them guests. So we are attending to the guests, the homeless, the poor. So there are 3 communities. And the whole idea is how can we work together, irrespective of what we believe or we don't believe. So we have the food providers from different faith groups. We have it started with the Sikhs. The Sikhs created a friendship with us, and we invited them to join us. So they would bring the food, they would bring everything, and that's how we started. Then we got involved with the Muslims. Then we have a Latino group coming from Mississauga, so they bring Spanish food. We have a Vietnamese group coming from Scarborough, because one of our brothers works with the Vietnamese group, so they bring Vietnamese food. Then we have a Chinese church where there is Dominican sisters working, so they bring Chinese food. And then we have a lady who is a friend of mine who comes very far from Oakville. She brings Caribbean food. So every week there's a variety, and now other groups are getting involved. Like just before coming to Montreal, a group from far away in Oakville called the Young Vincentians of St. Dominic volunteered to come, and now they want to come every 4th Saturday of the month. So basically there is a program where we ask people to sign up, the food providers first, who will be the food providers for the month. So they come and they bring the food from home, and then we try to put it in different boxes, containers. It's basically like a banquet type of service. So people can choose what they want, and then we just put it into containers and they take it home or they eat it in the hall itself. And before they come, we kind of provide them some coffee, or according to the season, some juice, just to keep them occupied, and also a chance for us to interact and talk with them. And then we have a prayer, a very simple prayer, which is non-denominational, and then we distribute the food. We do it on Saturdays because we noticed or we observed that many of the other food shelters or where they distribute food are closed, especially in the area that we live. So we thought that Saturday is a good day. We started with Wednesday outside on the lawn of the church, and then we moved to Saturday when we discovered that Saturday many of the shelters or the food distribution centers were closed. And also it was convenient for the volunteers. On Saturday morning, they make that sacrifice. Since they are not going to the work, they can come and help us. So different religious groups are represented. As I mentioned earlier, we started with the Sikh groups. Then we have the Muslim community. We also have the Buddhist group. And there are some Jews and some Hindu volunteers. And as I mentioned, then we have a Spanish group, a Chinese group, a Vietnamese group, a Caribbean group. So a variety of groups that bring food each Saturday. Yes, the experiences that I have, I could share two experiences. One is that we have been running this program for 6 years, and we don't propagate or broadcast that I am a priest and who the volunteers are, what religion we belong to. But one gentleman, as he was standing in line for the food, he tapped me on my shoulders and he said to me, "Can you pray for me?" And I said, "Is there any special reason?" He says, "Today is my birthday and there's noise, everybody's rushing for the food." And I said, "You want me to pray just now?" He says, "Yeah, just now, pray for me." And I said, "Okay." So I put my hand on his shoulder and I just prayed for the gift of his life and to bless him. And he was so happy. So in 5 years, somebody asked me to pray for him. And then I met this man in Tim Hortons and I didn't recognize any. And he said, "Hello, how are you? Do you remember me?" He says, "I'm sorry I could not come again because I had to go to the synagogue." And then I recognized that he was a Jew. So it was such a joy for me to recognize that he thought it was important to get a blessing from us. And the second experience I have was one day, because during COVID time, we never stopped this food distribution. We always did it outside with distances, keeping a distance, and in the box, and with mask, of course. So one of the food provider was a Muslim that time. And he said to me, he says, "Many people I see at Ripples of Kindness give me great joy." And I said, "Why?" Because he says, many of them don't go to church, or maybe they don't go to a synagogue or to a mosque, and some don't believe, I believe. So he says, but they know that this food is coming from the house of God. And someday when they eat this food, when they are by themselves, they will think that this food is coming from the house of God and it is given by people out of love. And I said, here's a Muslim giving me a lesson in theology. Yeah, the message after 6 years, I can say, is something that Pope Francis said one day when he was in Geneva. He chose the theme when he went to visit the World Council of Churches. It was praying together, walking together, working together. That was his theme, praying together, walking together, working together. But I think this experience made me think the other way, change the process. We have begun by working together, and because we work together for the same cause, to help people who are in need and poor, we begin to walk together. And because we are friends now, we work together, we can also pray together.